Well, I think of intelligence, I guess, as the ability to act in an environment very flexibly and very robustly, to cope with all kinds of changes and things that may come up, to not be thrown for a loop, in some sense, to not be too rigid in your thinking and your behaving. And learning is of crucial importance. I believe that evolution did build a huge amount of structure and bias into natural systems. And that learning, in some sense, only then kind of fills in the gaps, right? Lets the individual adapt to the particular niche that it finds itself in. So as engineers who want to make robots that are intelligent and effective and so on, we have to do the job that evolution did. And that's a huge job. I'm now really interested in vision, in particular using vision very tightly integrated with behaving in the world. So mostly I work with round rolling robots. We have one here called EricTheRed, called that because he was a famous navigator and explorer. And we mostly use it to study navigation and driving. Again, not because navigation and driving per se are our goals, but they're a good domain in which to test learning and reasoning. Because in general, a human can't tell the robot exactly what it ought to do in each circumstance. If I were able to tell the robot exactly what to do in each circumstance, I could just write the program to do it directly. Right? So now I have substantial uncertainty about what the right answers are, and I need the robot to actually figure that out. And so we do on robots something that what we call reinforcement learning. The programmer now, instead of telling the robot how to behave, has to at least tell the robot when it's doing well and when it's doing poorly. And you might imagine doing that with a little button where you said, bad robot, bad robot. Or you might imagine doing it by writing a program that said, well, it's bad to run into the wall, it's good to bring me coffee, things like that. I might first start out and say, well, it's bad to run into walls. I might tell the robot that. It's bad to run into walls. And now if I run my learning algorithm, what'll happen? Well, I've done this, and what the robot will probably learn to do is to not move. There's a safe way to not run into walls. So you think, oh, come on, that's not what you want. So you add something else and you say, well, it's bad to run into walls, but it's not too good to sit still either. I really would like the robot to move. So you give it a little reward for at least moving. And now you run the learning algorithm, and what does it learn to do? Well, my robot learned to rotate in place. It didn't run into walls, and it kept moving. So you think, oh, okay, no, that's not what I meant either. And it's interesting because even the process of formulating the reward and punishment for a robot is kind of complicated, and there's some trial and error involved in that. But I still think it's easier to do that trial and error than it would have been to actually build the program for the robot in the first place. A case where learning could be very important is in planetary exploration. So I do some work with NASA and think about, again, how a robot might learn something about the geographical layout of a place, but it might also have to learn some more low-level motor issues like how to drive on terrain that people don't really know much about in advance. Shorter-term applications might be things like vacuuming or navigating in office buildings, for instance. I might want my robot to learn a map of the environment and to learn how to drive down your hallways very effectively. So we would engineer in the commonalities, right, the basic idea of corridors and so on, but then we would let the robots individually learn the details of the particular situation that they were placed in. I think learning systems right now still don't really work very well. We're still trying to figure out how to make them work, and it's not the case that we know where we're stuck. It's not that we need necessarily bigger computers or better cameras or an improvement in a particular direction. We don't know enough about the problem yet, I think, to know exactly where we're stuck.